And everybody, welcome to the March 7th edition of the Arkansas Diamond Report. Got Dudley Dawson here, myself, Jason Patterson. I want to thank you all for jumping on with us today. I'm going to tell you what, it's pretty nice to be in an Aloy, especially a Kahiwa Aloy so far, because he's tearing it up at the plate. And if I'm not mistaken, he is either leading or near the top in batting average in the
Batting
NCAAs.
average, and I think number 5 in RBIs.
Mhm.
He's had a really good start, and this was a guy that struggled a little bit during the fall.
Yeah.
They didn't know if they were going to have a position for him. His position is apparently hitter, uh, a designated hitter. That's certainly what he's been, and he's been a joy to watch. I'm sure for the coaching staff and the fans, and he's kind of settled in there to the top of the order, and I know they would like to find him a position as he goes along, but right now it's we're just going to plug him and put everybody else around him.
And, you know, I think Charlotte might have been better than some people thought because whenever you rip up Gabe Gackle and then you also really stay in the game at every turn, it seemed like last weekend. I know that the Razorbacks really, I mean, after those first 3 innings on Friday, they didn't take Charlotte they took them very seriously, but even taking them very seriously with the game plan, Charlotte was able to still execute. And I think that was good to see how Arkansas was able to rebound and come from behind and also use power at the same time.
Yeah, they were talking about how they had an approach of taking everything to the opposite field. Did a lot of that early, got some hits, did pull a couple of balls, and jumped all over him. I think we'll see today when he goes out on the mound, he'll be moving the ball around a little bit more, not depending on just one spot. It's cool to throw strikes.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
don't get me wrong, and that's certainly something that they've done much better this year overall as a pitching staff. But you have to move the ball around, and so I think we'll see a little bit more of that. And heck, Hagen Smith got roughed up his first inning last year, so they're all going to have these type of situations. But I expect him to bounce back. As you go along the season, you make adjustments, and this is the time to do it because goodness gracious, this is a end of the non-conference season. At least you're getting ready for SEC play next week at Ole Miss, which obviously the softball team is doing this week.
Yep. We're gonna touch on that here in a few minutes too, with the ladies heading down to Oxford for their SEC opener this weekend. But you know, going back to the ULM series, the 2-game series in the middle of the week, there was a point last year I felt like where if the Razorback baseball team had a great weekend as far as at the plate, it seemed like they had a little bit of tougher time during the middle of the week. There was no drop off with the lineup, and I think that was good to see. The weather was okay, but they were, and I mean that literally, it was okay, not great, and especially with the wind and how crazy it was, they were able to still keep balls down, even though the big fly was working a little bit. They were still able to keep balls down, keep them. Oh, tell Tatum I said, hey, well, how's it going? And by the way, he's getting really big now.
Yeah, he's about to be removed from the spot by his mom. It looks like she's on guard over here, so he has the opportunity to be quiet and stay in here, or to go watch Young and Restless. One of the two. Just saying.
Has the opportunity, but may not have the ability.
Yes.
But with ULM and winning both of those games in 7 innings and scoring 14, well, basically outscoring them 29-4 over a 2-game, well, basically a day and a half. I like the fact that they were able to continue their hot streak at the plate, because there are going to be times where they are not going to be able to hit the broadside of a barn, and they're going to have defense that's going to back that up. But the offense, I love to see them continue that throughout the week. Can't hear you, man.
So Coach Van Horn was very pleased with not only the offense and how it had doubles and home runs, but also took walks, had some hit and runs going there. They hadn't stolen a lot of bases, but they moved around the bases a lot and done good things there. I think the only thing everybody was displeased with was Mother Nature showing off her tool bag, as I put in my story. That I mean, you get down to one strike where it's going to be a 10-run roll, and the dude gets a double, and then you got to run 90 feet away, and here comes a lightning bolt, and here's some more rain. I guess it looks like we'll probably have some rain this weekend. It was projected earlier for Tuesday. Now it's, Saturday. Now it may be Sunday. So we'll see how those games play themselves out. But it's important to get 3 games, and I'm looking forward to actually seeing the Sunday game, which may sound strange, but Ryan Rembras, who is Portland's best pitcher, or has been so far this season, he in 2 starts ago, he pitched an 82 pitch no hitter where he struck out 12. And to have him and Landon Beetlecheese going on Sunday is a pretty good pitching matchup, I think, there. And obviously he's been pitching, Sunday for them. And so they're kind of staying true to their, rest schedule and all that. But I think that could be a good one at noon on Sunday.
Yeah, that sounds like a great matchup. And we'll see exactly what he may have in his stuff and see what Arkansas is able to do against him too with that lineup, because like I said, there are going to be times where they're going to have some difficulties. They're going to face a guy that's going to be on it. And I want to see how, with Nate Thompson now in the dugout, if there's going to be any, more progressive, different types of strategy where they're able to implement something different throughout the innings versus whenever he's on the base path. And I think that might be the turning point that might help this offense too.
Yeah, and it certainly looks like it's helped so far. There've been a couple of games where they've been held down. And going back to your original question about Charlotte, they leave here 4-6, but in talking to their coach, Rob, Robert Woodard, he, thought that they really advanced some this weekend and in their approach and stuff like that. And we'll know at the end of the year whether they get a regional, how things go. But I think he's thought they were going to look back on this weekend and thought they competed really well and against the Arkansas pitching, especially. And so, we'll see. We all can pontificate and say it's much better team than we thought they were going to be. But really, the truth will be there at the end of the season if they can stay healthy and all that. But it was a more competitive non-conference weekend series than I think Arkansas was expecting, and I think that's a good thing.
Yep, and first pitch tonight against Portland, I do believe that is going to
3, 2, and noon again this weekend. 3 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and noon on Sunday, and then we get into night games in the SEC play and all that. So
even a night game, against UCA on the 11th. That's at 6 p.m. So, speaking of SEC play, softball, they start SEC play this evening against Ole Miss, and Coach Deifel and the ladies, they're top 10 now, and I kind of was wondering if they weren't going to get top 10, even though they had lost that game to UCLA a couple weeks ago. It's just kind of mind blowing that they haven't cracked the top 10 yet.
Yeah, they certainly will. They're listed at 10 now in all the posts. And they obviously that loss bounced them back a little bit. But what's interesting is they're going to play an Ole Miss team that has won 13 games in a row. It's 18-3. Which means obviously they started the season 5-3 with that Newport math I got going there. But they are a very hot team. Have some great pitching. The offense has been good for them this year. Maybe not as dominant as Arkansas's has been. Which let's give Hunter Corneliuson some love. Had a stat this week that Brielis and Courtney Day, together have in the 60s in RBIs, and that is more than 123 other softball teams. Not people, not duos, but teams.
Teams.
Yes.
Yes. I did see that stat. They do together. They've got 66 RBIs between the both of them. What is interesting too is that they are the top ranked player at their position in Division One.
Not bad for somebody coming out of so-called retirement after a year with Courtney Day. So what a great last pickup that's been.
Oh my gosh. There are certain things that happen to great teams in that really kind of come together to have a memorable season. That's one of those things where she falls into Coach Deifel's lap and is able to produce at a high level still. And not only that, but the top of her position, those are the sorts of things that happen whenever you have those runs where you're like, okay, this could be really, really good. And I
Yeah,
think they're doing that.
really good mix of veterans and youngsters that they have going. Obviously, the pitching's been really good. 5, I think, arms they put out there that they feel really good about. They're not getting any favors by starting out against an Ole Miss team, like you said, that went 13 in a row, and then next week, in fact, we already got a release this morning. DJ Gasso is going to be available next Tuesday to talk about the Oklahoma series. Oklahoma coming in here the following weekend, which will be quite a big series. Obviously for a variety of reasons. His mom Patty, in Oklahoma have been, really the dominant program in college softball for a while now, and that better get your popcorn, get your seats early for that one because that could be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be an entire weekend of a packed bogle. I don't see that there would be very many open seats for this one.
And that includes the one on grass out there on the berm.
Yeah. I think it's fun to see that Oklahoma and Texas, with Arkansas facing Texas, and that super regional, that was such a heartbreaking loss for Coach Deifel. In getting to see Mike White possibly come back here at some point. Adding Oklahoma and Texas, it does strengthen the SEC overall, but I feel like it bolsters teams like Arkansas, for instance, that give them that higher caliber of opponent, so that whenever they do go into those regionals and super regionals, they are able to use those moments that they've been able to go against those high quality teams, and it possibly might lead to some further success in the postseason.
Yeah, Coach Deifel talked in the offseason a lot about how they were not as good a team as maybe they thought. Part of that probably had to do with a little bit of malaise in terms of not the mix and energy that you have this year. But you also had some veterans who didn't, live up to maybe their billing, and it was just kind of they got through and won some games via grit and got to where they were, but they were not playing their best in the postseason last year. That was, obviously that was the baseball team now, and both of those programs have tried to put it into a situation now to when they get to the postseason, which is what we all know matters most, at least to fans and everybody else down there at the end. You have the opportunity to be playing at your best. I think the pitching staff this year, having so many different weapons, is going to be big in that. You're not going to have to ride Robin Heron into the ground in terms of arm use because, and she's been fantastic, obviously. And she, I think, qualifies as your ace, but you have a whole bunch of mini aces right behind her.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Lexi King, she was integral whenever she came in last weekend, and also Peyton Dunham, sorry. And both of those ladies have really stepped up their game. Whenever they come in, they understand that when they get there, there's a certain level of expectation, and sometimes you see it with some of the younger players where they might crack under the pressure a little bit. These ladies haven't.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The Peyton Burnham is the young lady from Oregon who pitched against UCLA, and I thought it was interesting that Coach Deifel threw her out there, against such a top quality foe, but she knew she would need her in those type of situations down the season. So she wasn't throwing the game, per se, but she was, putting her players and in this case Peyton in a situation where she will grow from it. They just had a couple of innings, obviously, where they got after a big 3-run home run, and then the inning capped off with the run rule deal. But that I thought that was a wise move that sometimes maybe fans and others don't understand, that you have to be put in an adverse situation to be able to shine as much as you can down later.
Yep. Yeah, I want to talk about adverse situations too, like you just said. Adverse situation that I think a lot of Razorback fans felt like should have happened. Well, let me rephrase that. An adverse situation where you saw an Arkansas Razorback basketball player, Izzy Higginbottom, not make any of the SEC first, second team, third team. There was nobody. She was not on any of those rosters when it came out. That's an atrocity on the SEC, on the SEC coaches. And
I've always been a proponent of however many you have on the floor in a sport, or on the field or the court. If you've got 11 offensive players, 11 defensive players, that's how many you should have on the first team, second team, all that. The SEC has 17 because of a tie on their first two teams. Now, to me, you go back to, I used to think when you go back, you should have 5 on one team, 5 on the next, 5 on the 15 players on 3 teams. This was 17 on 2. The problem, and Coach Neighbors pointed it out, and some others, Izzy should have, I don't care how many players you had on the team, Izzy should have been on there. You don't lead the nation in points, lead the SEC in scoring, lead the nation in made free throws. Absolutely, put your team on your back and not get recognized for that. And even after Georgia beat them, Georgia coach said, "I put her on the first team." She was getting that out there. Don't look at me.
You didn't want to be on that train. Yeah.
The girl just scored 38 against me. I was the first team, but with 16 teams in these mega conferences now, and Phil Elson and I were talking about this yesterday, you're going to have to adjust it a little bit. With 16 teams instead of say 8, you used to have to be voting on 8 teams on and off. On a basketball, men's and women's all conference team, you're gonna have to make adjustments. They're gonna do some things, but yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. Has been my phrase for it. While the overall play this season was not where it needed to be, and not what obviously Coach Neighbors and the team wanted. She was an absolute joy to watch, and it's just a damn shame that we only got to see 1 year of that. And I wish they would do some type of rule like we're doing now, where everybody gets 1 more year or 2 more years of that, and she would come back and play more and do so maybe with a better roster. Because as Coach Neighbors, who I know there are a lot of people want Arkansas to move on and get somebody else and go from there. I don't think that's going to happen. I'd be very surprised if it does, because of the situation. He's got a year left on his contract. The house settlement and the money and all that's going to be divvied out a little bit, and they have a plan on how they're going to do it. They're not in the lead in the SEC, not anywhere near it in terms of what you could get to come play here, in open free agency, which it is now. They're going to hit the portal hard. So I think there's going to be 1 more year, and he knows the seat's hot. But I've taken a little credit and taken a little criticism for something I've said this week. There was a report out in social media saying he was going to resign at the end of the year. I did not like that. Don't know the person, and not trying to besmirch them or cast aspersions, on them. But at the same time, but you always include the but there. But at the same time, that report just wasn't well sourced. You needed to get the other side, or they say you didn't get the other side. And that's one of the, I'm not saying I'm the most journalistically ethical person in the world, but there's a way you go about things. And I hope
Mm-hmm.
whoever that is learns from that.
Yep.
And everybody else learns from it. I had to do it when I was young. I learned stuff when I was young. But
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, you're playing with people's livelihood right now. And you are either bringing respect to your view and your side or whatever, or you know, as I said, they're casting aspersions on you. And again, I'm not trying to denigrate, but you got to do things the right way most of the time. And you got to learn as you grow. And certainly, I did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that comes with being right and not first.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the reasons why. Because I'll just tell the story really quick. Because when I saw that come out, that the first thing I did was I called you and I said, "Hey, what are we? What's going on with this?" And you said, "We're going to sit back for a minute. Let me find, let me do some calling and stuff, and let me find out and see what we can do or what we need to be putting out there. But for the time being, we're not putting out anything." And I said, "Let's go with it then." And you don't want to be that person that's out there with their shirt hanging out in the wind when something like that happens. And yeah, it is messing with somebody's livelihood. And fans might not like it, but at the same time, you got to give the guy the resources to be able to do his job the right way.
Yeah, I think most people know that Mike Neighbors and I were friends before he got to be basketball coach here.
Mhm.
I try to take that out of the situation. I'm objective to know that 2 times going to the NCAA tournament in 8 years is not what you need to have at this level. He knows that. You know, there's some factors that's gone into that, but also it's about coach gets to blame, the coach gets to praise, and so he
Mhm.
knows what he's got there. Apparently, and again I say apparently, because of comments made by Coach Neighbors that him and Hunter Yurchek, the director of athletics, have been meeting since around Christmas about how they were going to do things in terms of money going into the program, money going out of the program, with bringing in. Apparently, they're going to go real hard in the portal transfer, which I think obviously is the way to do it. They've got a couple of high school recruits coming in. You've got some obviously players that will be returning, but you have to beef up what you've gotten to play in the SEC. And so I'm anxious to see over the course of that. But I get it, and he gets it too.
Mhm.
And my outrage or whatever it was, criticism, maybe the best thing about that report, did not have anything to do with Mike Neighbors. It would be the same thing if they was reporting it on Sam Pittman, Courtney Deifel, anybody. You just go about things the right way. And
Yep.
again, whoever that is, if you hear this and you want to talk to me, I'll be glad to share what either is wisdom or learned failure that I've had over the years in terms of how you go about and do things. I've adopted a saying this week after this that clickbait is the mistress who can come back and stab you later. Crazy, beautiful but crazy. Uh, Journalistic ethics is the wife who you've loved and you've nurtured, and you better make sure you say the right thing.
Yep, definitely. And I like the fact that Hunter was reached out, and him and Mike have been having conversations since December and not icing him out, knowing that the team's not good, don't need to mess with it. We'll just restart from fresh, maybe, and not and trying to get Mike's point of view from what he was wanting to do, because I know that the popular story with the whole Mike Anderson situation, walking in having not really a plan, he knows that you know Mike's got a plan, and that you want to give him that last year. I mean, you don't want to sit there and cut your nose to spite your face with that, and also what what is the roster possibly going to look like? I mean, we're going to have a situation where you're going to have maybe a returning 2 or 3 players, and then a couple of freshmen, and then the rest are going to be portal, or is it going to be like small turnover, large turnover? What does that look like? Do you know?
I guess they're trying to going through that right now. Obviously, there's some players on the roster this year that contributed heavily, some that didn't. I'm sure that some will bounce out. I'm sure Phoenix will step up and be more of a scorer
Hmm.
as she was at the end of the year after coming in mid-season really, and taking over the Izzy role, maybe in fact of being maybe the leading scorer. But I think you got to go out and you got to get you another point guard. You've got some good role players. It looks like to me you don't have enough stars, and so you got to go out and get someplace else. In this day and age, that's the portal. But it is a situation where if you look back, and I believe I'm accurate on this, they've played their last 24 games against against SEC opponents. They've won 3. Just not acceptable. And so the whole thing, if you don't blow the whole thing up, you got to really change how you're going about things. And I think that's where these discussions have gone. Would they be what's the word, fair in letting him go? I think there would be a plenty of people who could argue that there are reasons there. Is it the right thing to do? That would be what I don't know.
Hmm.
Because while we are hearing a side of things, we are privy to those discussions. I would like to know how much you're gonna get, how much you're gonna pay for a point guard, how
Yeah.
much you have available to pay for a point guard. And this is some of the same situations that Coach Pittman and the football team, and him talking about the new general manager eventually coming in. He basically said he wanted a negotiator.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to have these days if you're the head coach or if you have a general manager or whatever. Because I mean, let's just be honest. December was a cluster with football, jumping into the portal, jumping out of the portal, jumping in and out. People, basically looking for better deals and all that. You had one school, obviously Ole Miss, who rounded up a bunch of Arkansas players. I think that's 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
It is not college athletics anymore. It's a business. It's been, trending toward a business for a long time, and that's certainly the way it is now. The amount of money being thrown around until it gets wrangled into some type of non-Wild West situation, you're going to have somebody. And I do think that it's both a plus and a negative that Coach Pittman says, "Look, I can't do this all by myself." You know,
Hmm.
but at the same time, that's part of the job these days. So everybody is turning, or lots of people turning towards general manager. Hope that works out. They get somebody in here who is not going to be a yes dude, but going to be a somebody that gets some people mad. But you
Yeah.
have to do that in deal making and all that.
When you're not, well, let me rephrase that. When you're doing your job right, yeah, you're going to probably make some folks mad, regardless of what job that is. If you're doing it right, probably going to make a few mad. And I'd like to see and I know that Sam had talked about yesterday having a GM in here by the end of the month. It's going to be integral not only for football but also for basketball, because that by that time season's probably ended or getting close to being ended. Um,
Most people,
Softball,
a lot of people reach the height of their success when they don't care about what people think about them anymore. That they care about what's best for the business, what's best for the site, what's best for
yep,
you know, uh, just you don't need to think about yourself personally too much. You just need to do your job.
yeah, and that it looks like that they may have been able to identify a couple. Sam was not going to release those names for obvious reasons, but I know that one that's been kicked around that has been kind of trending and it's kind of popular would be Raleigh Williams III.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is a
Timmy Johnson is
possibility.
now Timmy Johnson is now retired from TV, so he would be available.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we know that's not going to happen, but that's the
Yeah.
type of gravitas you need in terms of uh, putting yourself in a situation that, with the money and the personality that you have, that whoever the parents are, the player are, the agent, the lawyer, the uncle,
Hmm.
everybody that has to be involved in this thing these days, trend towards you instead of trending toward your opponents.
Yep. And I think it's also important that Arkansas gets somebody that's in there that I wouldn't say a wow factor, but commands a room.
Mm.
And I think that that's extremely important, because if you go in there in the negotiations and the player feels like that they have the upper hand from the jump, you've already lost. And I
Yeah,
think that that's
I'm
important.
not the smartest man in the room, but if I don't know the person that they are bringing in here, that's not a good deal. I mean,
No.
like, I don't know everything, but I have trended in the, I've been in this college football world for 40 plus years now, and if I've never heard of you, but as much as I read and as much as that's the wrong person.
Yep. Do have a real quick comment from Leroy Dumas. Really quick says, does anybody know if Arkansas softball uses Game Changer?
And I'm not sure. I know baseball does. I'm not sure softball. I'll ask that question this weekend. See what we can come up with. I'll text Hunter and we'll put that out there on the site for sure, or maybe in a tweet. So
Cool. Well, Leroy, keep a lookout for that. Make sure to follow Dudley on his Twitter handle or on Hogville. You'll get your answer on that once Dudley gets that for you as well. Um, let's get you out of here, man. We got softball, we got baseball this weekend. It's going to be a fun, nice weekend. It looks like I was looking at the weather report, and it looks like there's a 40% chance of rain tomorrow, and then it goes in Fayetteville, and then it goes down to like I think 16% on Sunday.
the one thing you need to do is try to get these 3 games in. You obviously got one more Tuesday night, as you mentioned. But you need to get these 4 games in before you play next weekend. So.
Yep. And there's an opportunity too that if it does have, if it does get rained out with the noon start on Sunday, you might be able to get a couple in. So who knows?
Yep. We'll be waiting. We'll see.
All right, for Dudley, myself, Jason, I want to thank you guys for jumping on with us today on the Arkansas Diamond Report. Also, remember, next Thursday is going to be a big show. We got the Arkansas Heroes Series premiere episode that will be launching
Excited about that.
That is so much. It was so much fun, man. We're gonna get all those guys on in like giving them their own moment if they're able to join over the next 5 weeks, so that they can kind of talk about that too. So that premieres 6 p.m. next Thursday on hogville.net, or you can watch it on the YouTube channel as well. And then at 7 o'clock, I've got Alyssa Orange that will be co-hosting with me at Torchy's Tacos in Fayetteville at 7 p.m. next Thursday. So be sure to jump on with us then, or come and join us live on site. So for Dudley again, myself, Jason, I want to thank you guys for jumping on with us today, and go Hogs.